Welcome to a beautiful morning here in Pennsylvania. It is late May, I think roughly May 22nd. But we're out here looking for some pine trees, white pine in particular, because we're going to make something called pine needle tea as part of our edible and medicinal plant series. But we got to find some pine trees first. Like I said, white pine. You can use some other pine trees too, but just make sure that they're safe to use before you do so. Because as with all these videos on medicinal and edible plants here in Pennsylvania, make sure you do your own research first. Don't just take my word for it or someone else's. Just make sure you do your own research first so you're being safe about what you're doing. Alright, so still looking for a white pine tree, but I believe there are some further up this trail, if I remember correctly. But one of the most important benefits to drinking pine needle tea is it's a super abundant source of vitamin C. Almost like 3 times as much vitamin C as you'll get in an orange. So that abundance of vitamin C is why some of the early explorers referred to trees like the white pine as the tree of life. Not initially, but when they first started exploring, because they made the long sea voyage, from Europe over here. They didn't necessarily eat well in those ships. They didn't have lots of, fruits and stuff. So a lot of those sailors, as you know, suffered from like scurvy, a disease you get from lack of vitamin C, in particular. And they would reach the shores of the New World, and a lot of them be sick, especially if they came in the wintertime when there still wasn't anything green growing. But they noticed, they interacted with the Native American stuff. They noticed the Native Americans were, look at a woodpecker, were healthy and fine. So like, why are they not getting sick like we are? And the natives, they point upwards to the pine trees, and at first the explorers were like, okay, yeah, trees. But then the natives taught them to make pine needle tea. You can get the vitamin C from the needles and the bark, so they learned to make a tea. And they didn't know about vitamin C back then, but it did cure their scurvy. All right, and we have some pine trees over here, although the pine needles are way up there. I need to find some branches that are lower down, which I think maybe we'll be able to find. There's a stand of pine trees in here. I will just walk a little bit more down the trail though. It'll be like the early explorers were suffering from scurvy. We need to get some of those pine needles. There's also some spruce trees here too, but anyway. Yeah, so right there is some, but it's just out of reach. I guess I'm gonna die of scurvy. I'll try and find a branch or something to pull that down. If not, we'll find some somewhere else. All right, we are going to live. Right here's a white pine. Of course, this is white pine, Pinus strobus. There are 5 needles per cluster. So it looks like the new ones haven't really come out yet, although I might clip off a new one too. We'll talk more about that later. Depending on how old the needles are, they have more or less vitamin C and then more or less taste. So we're gonna pick a couple of these and find a spot to brew up some tea. All right, so now I'm just gonna look for a spot to sit and brew up some tea. All right, folks, we have found a place to set up. Got a nice old hickory log we're sitting on here. I have my pine needle branches that I'm gonna pluck some needles off and probably cut them into smaller pieces, and then brought my little gas stove along, and we're gonna boil some water. And then I got another cup here. We're gonna brew some pineapple tea, some pine needle tea. I don't know if you can make pineapple tea. Anyway, pine needle tea. So I have some of the older needles here from last year or the year before, and I have some of the newer ones I haven't fully needled or leafed out yet. So I'll probably put a mixture of both in there. From what I've read, the older needles have more vitamin C in them, but the older needles also have a more piney taste to them, which you may not like. So the younger needles have less vitamin C, but not so much of a piney taste. So I'm just gonna mix the 2 of them up, see what happens. And we're just gonna cut them up into smaller pieces. At least try to. These younger ones. Like I said, you can also get vitamin C from the bark, but I'm not gonna cook up any pine needle bark today. All right, let's get some water heated up. should be enough. Get this going. That's hot. Turn it down a little bit. There we go. So let that warm up. And once that's warmed up good enough, we'll put some pine needles in another cup and let it brew for a little bit. You don't want to boil. You don't want to boil the pine needles. That boiling actually destroys the vitamin C. So you just want to like steep the pine needles. Okay, so the water's definitely boiling in there. Of course, once you put it in here, it will stop boiling. Like I said, you don't want to boil it. Like, so in other words, you don't want to have the pine needles in here while the water's boiling. Whoops, wrong way. Turn it off. And then we'll just pour the water in here. Let the pine needles steep for a bit. We'll filter the needles out a little bit later. We'll let that sit for a while. This is my thing from Unigear, which they sent me. I think that was a Christmas present from them. All right, we'll let that sit for a while. This is, looks like so far. Like I said, we will filter it out, all the needles out a little bit later. It's not changing color a whole lot. It's turning around, kind of squishing the needles a little bit. Not going to taste it just yet, just want to smell it. It does have a very pine needle-like smell to it. I think I'll let it sit just a little bit longer before we try it. Alright, but like I said, it's smelling very piney, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and filter out the needles. Let's pour it here. I've got a coffee filter. Actually, I might just dump the rest of it out. Alright, I'll probably pull this filter out and put the... We'll figure it out here in a moment. Alright, got it back in this cup. I wanted it back in here so you can see the color, which isn't a whole lot. Yeah, I didn't filter out all the needles, but it won't kill me. So, time for a taste test. Most important part. Alright, so here we go, the most important part. Man, it does smell very piney. I didn't bring any honey or anything along to sweeten it, but we'll see. I think years ago I tried making this and it didn't really have a whole lot of taste, but I tried to let it brew a little bit longer this time. I mean, it definitely smells piney. There's a floater right there. Don't want that one. Alright, here we go. Bottoms up. It's very mild. I mean, there's definitely a taste there, but it's not... I guess it depends on how long you brew it and stuff like that, but it's a very mild flavor to it. You know, it's not bad. I mean, smelling it, you'd think it would be like very piney, but... Like I said, you could probably make it stronger. You could probably make it stronger. Maybe like brewing it a lot longer or something like that. But this isn't bad just like this. I mean, the greenish color lets you know that like the vitamin C and things have seeped into the water. It doesn't need any sweetener either. I don't know. So, it's not bad at all. Alright, there you go, folks. Pine needle tea. So you can try it yourself. But anyway, not so bad. Like I said, you don't want to boil it. I think boiling it, besides destroying the vitamin C, boiling brings out the other nastier aspects of the pine needles that's inside them, like the pitch and the sap and the stuff. You get a probably much more pungent brew of things. But there you go. Hey, if you want to try, or if you have scurvy, you can try some pine needle tea, or think of it like as a spring tonic at the end of winter, to something to drink. Anyway, there you go. Alright, but that'll be it, folks. Thanks for joining me on this one, and hopefully we'll see you on another little adventure.